Hi everyone. Obviously we're going through some weird times with the coronavirus, and I was seeing some posts and simulations helping to describe the situation to people, like this one. So this simulation where people in orange are sick, they come into contact with healthy people, they become sick. After an amount of time, the sick people become recovered and immune to the virus, and it kind of just graphs and shows how the virus spreads over time. And it got me thinking, why don't we create our own simulation to show this sort of thing? So this website, the WashingtonPost.com, showed quite a few different simulations of what might happen if we had different scenarios. So this one had a bit of a block initially between people that were infected, but the infection did get out and spread across the rest of the population. I hope you've been watching the news with this, and the real focus isn't to stop people getting infected. They eventually want to get enough people infected that we get what's called a herd immunity, so that we become immune to something like this as a nation. We become immune, possibly even a global nation, so that we don't have this again, or certainly not as serious as this. But what you might have seen is the idea of flattening the curve. In the first simulation we ran, it was the curve was very steep, and lots of people got infected at once, and that's what's potentially very dangerous for us, where lots of people get infected at the same time and the NHS can't cope. I've had a text from the government this afternoon just telling me to stay at home and not to leave, and I'm sure many of you will be the same. This simulation here shows what happens if we had some social distancing. So instead of everybody moving around, we've now got yes, there's certain people that are infected that are moving around, but there's lots of people that are staying at home, not having contact with others, keeping themselves socially distant. And we see on the graph at the top here, yeah, the number of cases of people infected does rise, but it's not a significant jump like we saw on the first simulation. Here's the first simulation again, just for comparison. Not many people have it, and then a sudden huge rise until most of the nations got it. And that's where it would overwhelm our health service, and that's what people are afraid of. At the point up here, then becoming lots of deaths rather than recovered people. This final simulation here on the Washington Post website shows extreme example of social distancing. And yeah, it shows how little people get infected. Certainly wouldn't be overwhelming a healthcare system. Over time, the same number of people might be infected still. Over a longer period of time, the same number might still be infected, but we wouldn't have the same number infected at the same time, therefore helping to protect our health service and care for people, helping to have more recovery. All of these simulations didn't account for any sort of death in vulnerable people and things like that. And I thought they were very interesting. I liked the idea. I liked watching them run and actually visually seeing how moving about in the way that we do, or lacking movement, the government enforcing us to reduce our movements and interactions with each other, how that could have an impact rather than just being words, something visual there to show us what was going on. So that's what the aim of the next few videos I'm going to make for you. It's going to be to get you to create a simulation yourself, and we'll learn about things along the way like object-oriented programming, because it would make sense for these circles here, the people in this simulation, to be objects. We should be able to involve inheritance and other high-level skills that we got in A-level, such as inheritance, encapsulation, all the things we've been learning about with object-oriented programming, and kind of give you an insight into what sort of thing you could be making for your A-level project. I don't want all 64 of you to all of a sudden go, I want to make a disease spreading simulator, but it gives an indication as to what level of skill you'd be required to have for a decent A-level project. And and the object-oriented skills that we'll hopefully demonstrate in creating these simulations would be really good for your projects. What else? Yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting idea and concept, and I really liked watching these simulations, but I really wanted to be able to change some of the parameters myself, so I could see what was going on, so I could see the difference myself, rather than just running these kind of pre-made simulations. I wanted the ability to be able to change the amount of people at the start, the amount of social distancing, how many people are remaining socially distant, how many people are still running about, and seeing that effect myself using my own parameters. And I thought it would be interesting for you too. So that's the concept. The next few videos, the next few virtual lessons will be about trying to make our own simulator. And I do want you to contribute to this a bit. It will be changing over time. So if you have any suggestions for things we can do, we'll take them on board, obviously. Thanks for listening. See you soon.